what would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you would share when it comes to, focusing on the here and now, but really trying to build a career? Because it's one thing to get to the big leagues, but that's not the finish line. That's the starting line. You obviously had an almost 2-decade-long career. So what's the perspective that you could share for someone who's either trying to get there or who's made it and is trying to really establish themselves at that level?
Well, there's a number of things. If someone's already in the minor leagues, they kind of, know the deal and know what they got to do. If they're there, they obviously have some talent. But people ask me, what's it take to make it? And so, it's hard to say exactly, say it this way, but it's really true. You need talent. You need some learned resilience. You got to figure that out because you're going to have some very challenging times. And then you need a few breaks. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Some guys are good enough to make their own breaks, but sometimes, things happen. And let's be honest, sometimes, it's a really weird dynamic in the minor leagues trying to make it to the major leagues because you're out there competing against the teams that you're playing against, and you want to, get your stats to the point to where they're good enough to get to the big leagues, but you're also competing against your own teammates. It's really a weird situation. You're competing for starting time with the other outfielders, for instance. There'll be 6 to 8 outfielders on a team. So it's kind of a weird thing. But you'll figure that out. Everybody kind of knows the deal there. But you need occasionally people ahead of you get hurt. I mean, I'm not saying that's or some coach really connects with you and really likes you and gives you an extra opportunity. I will say, you do make your own breaks a lot of times. You always got to be prepared because you may not be playing a lot at a certain time, but you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So you got an opportunity. You always got to be prepared, working hard. I have seen players that had less natural talent make it over those that had more natural talent. Sometimes the person with the less ability works harder. And sometimes those with more talent, it comes easier to them and they stop progressing. So no matter what your situation is, no matter what your ability level is, you always got to try to improve it. Sometimes I don't like to call it luck, but you need to be fortunate sometimes. And sometimes it's which organization you're with. I got drafted by the Braves as a catcher. They needed catching. I wasn't going to get drafted by the Cincinnati Reds in the 70s. Any catchers that got drafted by the Reds in the 70s, good luck because Johnny
that's for sure.
was there. So all that kind of stuff. But I'd say the key mental aspect that you need to develop is your mindset, resilience, because so much is controlled in your mind, how you approach, the day after going 0 for 4 or over the 2 days after going 0 for 8, 3 days after going 0 for 12. I mean, you're going to have those days. What's the fourth day going to bring? What is your approach going to be that day? Are you feeling really good? Which you got to figure out how to feel real good that day, because you're just 0 for 12. You're going to have those days. So those who develop resilience and understand what it's like to bounce back every day, the odds increase that they're going to make it. It doesn't guarantee anything, but they got to learn that to get to the big leagues, and then you got to learn that to stay. Because like you said, once you get to the big leagues, then some things get easier, like you can usually see the ball better, lights better, conditions better, the pay is better, the food's better, but it's also harder. You're facing a lot of good pitching, and so you really have to remember what it's like to be resilient and to bounce back day in and day out, for sure.
What's the mindset that you developed that allowed you to not just say, okay, I made it, and like you said, plateau or make stupid decisions that sees your career go? I mean, you obviously had the raw potential, but you can make poor decisions off the field that can totally derail your career. How did you establish yourself as a big leaguer and develop the career that you did?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's as a player, as a person, I think I had some good mentors along the way. It wasn't about just being a better baseball player, it was about being a better person as well. That helped me stay out of trouble. I wasn't always perfect, made some mistakes myself along the way. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, but it's what I learned from making those mistakes. The mistakes I made, it was learning from them and not repeating them. It was understanding. And another thing that Harvey used to tell me all the time, it's understandable, but unacceptable. Learning to understand that the mistakes that you make are part of life and a part of the game, a part of what goes on around the game, but we don't accept that. You just have to work on yourself. You just consistently working on yourself on and off the field. And I think most players, when they get that taste of what it means to be successful in the big leagues, is what really helps a player, keep their nose clean more than anything, really. I mean, I think players that struggle are the ones that tend to, look for, answers to their problems outside the field, and sometimes run into problems and have a very difficult time recovering. And when you get that success and you see that, hey, I can have a successful career, there is a chance I'm going to continue on and play in the big leagues for quite a while. Then you realize how important it is to keep your nose clean even more, especially when, you're going out to eat and somebody recognizes you and comes over and asks you for an autograph, or a kid sees you on the street, asks you for your autograph. Now, all of a sudden, the responsibility of staying, clean and being a responsible citizen is important. The times where I probably wasn't was when I struggled the most. If I went 0 for 20, I didn't want to be seen out in public. I'd be hiding in the shadows. But
that is the hard part of the game. Obviously, it's not. I mean, baseball is such a game of failure, and you got to go out there every day. It's not like football where you can kind of hide for a week. Yeah,
exactly. I would just say that in 2000, opening day, I had a very bad game, and it was tough. And we had, like, in Montreal, opening days were huge. They were like World Series. We had 52,000 people there. I made 2 errors that cost us the game, and I couldn't sleep that night. And the next morning, I went to eat breakfast with Ron McClain, our trainer, and I was sitting at the table, and the waitress comes over and says, can I take your order? And I was like, yeah, I'll have the French toast with strawberries, and I'll have a cheese omelet. She goes, wow, you're hungry. And I was like, yeah, I'm starving. She goes, you must have had a bad night last night. I said, I did. She goes, I know, I was there.
Oh, wow.
I tell a lot of kids is, they have aspirations to make it to the big leagues, and they want to make these huge, tremendous jumps. And when your eyes are on that, that you're trying to make these big leaps and bounds, that, you miss a lot of the process. Like, you have to realize that you have to go through the full process in order to get where you want it to go. Like, it's very, very rare that anybody makes these huge leaps and bounds and skips over the process of, getting better. It's very rare to see that. And so for us everyday people, you have to just go through the whole process and be patient with it and continue to just work and work and work to be able to hopefully, have a chance to to get drafted, play professionally, and then move up the ladder in the minor leagues to get to the major leagues. And so, and those are things I learned early on from my high school days. And then it continued in college was about trusting the process, going through the process, being patient, and not, just because you make an adjustment doesn't mean that it's going to happen, it's not going to work the very next time. So it can get frustrating, and being patient and using that time to just continue to keep working and working is the thing that really helps prepare you. And I know that worked for me, helped prepare me to make that transition into pro ball, and then from the minor leagues going up the ladder, all the foundation that was laid since high school helped me to make those adjustments as I got to face better and better hitters.